This is 40K Today. 40K news so important, the Emperor of Mankind once called it the other Primarch. Welcome to 40K Today. How you doing? This is your 15-minute daily news, views and interviews show that covers the whole hobby of Warhammer 40,000. And there's a lot to cover at the moment, right? I'm your host, Steve Joel, and today on the program, well, we're still riding the wave of the new edition. In a moment, I'm going to catch up with one of the world's top-performing Necron players about the new models and what he most wants to see for the metal men in the new 40K. And if you've been missing our friends at 40K Stat Center, Val Heffelfinger speaks with John Damaris in a few minutes with some good news. But first, the news. Hey, have you heard there's a new edition of Warhammer 40K coming? Just kidding. You've obviously heard that. But how amazing do the models look? There are so many people who have already released podcasts and videos reviewing the information that came out of G-Dub over the weekend. But here are a couple of our favorites if you want to listen to people who know what they're talking about. The Forge the Narrative podcast, in which Paul Murphy and Adam Camilleri give us their thoughts. So the link to that is in our show notes if you want to hear it. And Mikey Herbert from Hellstorm Wargaming in the UK has done a great video as part of his Coffee Time series. Again, link in the show notes. Check it out. In case you missed it, also amongst everything else that was going on, the Psychic Awakening is still happening. So pre-orders for Engine Wars are up from this Saturday. It features 4 factions with new rules, background material, missions, etc. for Adeptus Mechanicus, but also Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, and Chaos Demons, including the latest units for Slaanesh. I need to remind you as well about our 40K poll question for the week, live on the 40K Today Facebook page right now. And it is this: do you think the new edition is going to rebalance the game? Now, we get it, that's a broad question, and we don't have a heap of information yet, but we are getting a lot of great responses. We just want to see where you're at with it. Nick, for example, says having digital rules and an app will greatly help players get into the hobby and learn about other armies. Yeah, spot on. Ian says there will always be imbalances, so long as every player feels their army has a chance of being competitive or will be more competitive in the new edition, then I think that's a good thing. It's Ian. And Hank, love this. He says, I'm excited for a new edition. My kid is almost 13, which is around the age I was when Third dropped, and I started playing. New editions are the best time for new players. She's excited. I'm excited. I'm beyond ready for this, says Hank. Hey, we're with you, buddy. While we're on the new 40K, Necrons are, you'd have to say, the big winners based on what we've seen so far. So I spoke with one of the best Necron players in the world. This is a man who took his Crons to 5-1 at LVO and who is active online as a mentor to people learning to play the faction. Eulis Sanders is a legend among players of the Metal Men. So what does he want to see for his beloved Necrons in the new 40K? You always knew that Necrons had it in them in the right hands. Is that fair to say?
You know, I felt like my list was very capable of a 4-2, and all I needed was 1 or 2 lucky rolls to get to a 5-1 or potentially even a 6-0. Like I knew the list had the capabilities to get there. My 5th game was against an Iron Hands player who finished 5-1. So imagine that. You're an Iron Hands player and your only loss is the Necrons.
Yeah.
On turn 1, I killed 1,200 points of his army. I knew if I could get to the top 100 tables, it played to my advantage.
The success at LVO was amazing, and I communicated with you during all of that. I was watching as much as I could. The results come in every game and going, holy moly, this guy, he's on a roll. But what we're seeing now, and because there's been so much over the last little while about, you know, people saying, oh, Necrons aren't getting any love and there's no new models and why do we wait so long? But now, GW, man, have they made up for it. If what we've seen in the last few days is anything to go by, for a start, let's talk about the models that are coming out. There are some stunning and brand new, it looks like, builds, right?
Oh, I mean, there's going to be so much on the table. Funny story, 2019 LVO, so not this last year, I got a chance to talk to one of the lead designers, and he had made the comment that there's going to be a lot of changes coming up for the armies, aka Psychic Awakening. But he also told me at the time, Necrons are going to need a full overhaul. Right. And I kind of knew that we were going to be in for a long haul. I'm fully anticipating that with all the stuff that we're seeing, I'm really expecting a lot of changes. Now, fingers crossed, those are good changes. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, you already got a lot of changes. They weren't necessarily for the best.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I
but
think
this is all new models, right? I mean, this is we're seeing just from the images that we've seen so far, not only the Silent King, which people were excited about, but
yeah,
there's that giant three-legged dreadnought-sized slashing machine in the video. There's
it
the
looks like a potential Necron Knight variant, maybe.
yeah,
Maybe something similar to Gallant, which would be a very cool addition to the list. Um, the one that's really intriguing is that Citan model looking thing, and there's talks that it could be potentially the Shard of the Void Dragon.
right.
If
Wow.
that plays out, I think, I mean, that's going to be really interesting. I mean, hopefully GW does it justice, because I'm not a big lore guy. I'm more on the competitive side, but what little bit I do or have read about the lore of the Void Dragon, like it should be really an interesting model,
Yeah.
and hopefully brings something scary. The Necrons need a scary close combat model,
So
something that at least makes you hesitate before just throwing everything into us.
So that was my next question. In my experience, the things that Necrons need, and this is what I want to ask you, you have much more experience and you're a much better player. So, but it seems to me that the D6 is an issue and we need some consistent big gun shooting. And also, yeah, as you said, something solid and dependable and big and scary in close combat. Is there anything else you think that we need that you'd like to see with the birth of this new edition?
One of my biggest complaints is that we weren't necessarily playing the same game as everybody else, and the reason why I said that too is that for a long time, in my opinion, it worked well, the Jim Vessel list, because when Plaguebearers were around. But in my opinion, for the last year, the Necron Battalion has been is really is not it's not been good. I mean, it's been to the detriment of those who have brought them, from what it seems like, and so I actually haven't played with troops in probably over a year.
Wow.
Now, why I say what the new edition, they said that they're going to be balancing out CP, and basically everyone's going to be having more CP base, and I think that's going to be a huge balancing, rather than going up against an orc player who has 18 CP and I'm running with 6 or 7.
Sure.
I think that's just going to make, I mean, that's going to completely change how we can approach the game as well. Because in my opinion, that's my biggest downside with Wraiths, or what the Wraiths have been, is I think Wraiths are an interesting unit, but they need CP to be good, and then you have to bring troops and Wraiths don't sync up very well.
I honestly don't think Necrons are the only army that's suffering from that. And when the Psychic Awakening book comes out, hopefully there'll be a bunch of stratagems that are great for Necrons to use. But yeah, as you say, then they're CP hungry, and you're going to need some sort of balancing act for Knights. So that would be a big thing that you're after, is the CP. Big scary model, which it looks like we're going to get for
with a Citan, and also it looks like more of a bruiser with those smaller 3-legged guys. Maybe like a Necron, Bullgrin kind of type model. That's going to be more of a midfield bruiser, which is something we haven't. Like, it's something we want the race to be, but they're just not.
Yeah.
They're not quite there.
Yeah.
Maybe something to complement the Wraiths. The other thing that I've been seeing from the pictures that looks really interesting is like the idea that it looks like there's this new monolith, a well-pointed, accurate monolith that does kind of what the monolith is supposed to do. I'm really hoping what that means is GW recognizes that they really, they really kind of, pigeonhole us in gear options. Not compared to a lot of other armies that can switch out gear. We don't really have that option, and I'm really hoping, like, especially for like the Lich Guards, the idea of being able to have maybe 3 or 4 sword and boards with complementary 5 or 6 war sites, stuff like that across the whole codex could be a big addition as well. And maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into that with seeing some of the death rays on the monolith, but I'm hoping maybe there's going to be some more gear flexibility going forward, and that's, I think that would be huge for us as well.
We're just going to have to wait and see, man. This is all really good and really hopeful, and it's the new models look gorgeous. We know that for a fact. But rules-wise and everything else, we just wait and see. Thanks so much for talking to me, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Steve.
That's Eula Sanders, Necron's real-life Silent King on what might be coming. It was so great to talk to him. Thanks, Eulis, for your time. Next up on the program, we speak with Val Heffelfinger about the triumphant return of 40K Stat Center. Kinda.
Today's episode of 40K Today is brought to you by Frontline Gaming. Frontline Gaming is a one-stop shop for all your Warhammer hobby needs, discounted products, American-made gaming mats and terrain, and a full line of miniatures painting service and daily hobby content. And this can all be found at frontlinegaming.org.
Welcome back. 40K Stat Center has been one of the best and most loved 40K podcasts in a crowded market. Peter Colosimo and Val Heffelfinger have kept us up to date with the numbers and the factions and the players at tournaments all over the world. But when COVID started its run through the world and tournaments came to an end, so did 40K Stat Center. John Damaris caught up with Val about the tentative plans for a casual return to the airwaves.
All right, Mr. Val Heffelfinger, famously from 40K Stat Center. I hear that you guys are coming back online here pretty soon. You want to tell the people what's going on?
Well, that might be overselling it a little bit, but I heard a pretty cupcake puff piece interview here on 40K Today and in a few other places regarding the Best Coast pairings, Down Under pairings, merger, or joining of forces. And I thought, me and Pete, we love this stuff. We use a lot of the pairing software to do our analysis. And so we want to hit them with some hard-hitting questions and get the real scoop on the BCP-DUP merger. And so we're debuting a modified COVID-19 version of the show, maybe a one-off 40K Chat Center. It's going to be awesome.
I can't wait. People genuinely miss you guys, right? Because you guys were a big staple in the scene. Like, you came in just like fireballs. Because I remember, because you guys came in shortly, I think, before I started playing 40K about a year ago. And I just was like, this show is so cool. Like, and then you guys went away. And I know that I've heard from other people that they're just like, do you know, is Val coming back? You know what? I'll have him on 40K Today and I'll ask him. So if you guys have a good time with this, is there any possibility that there'll be more chat centers? Like, because even the Falcon, I gotta be honest, are just a lot of fun to listen to.
Well, we have a lot of fun doing the show. If you do enjoy us just droning on about nonsense, we do regularly appear these days on The Honest Wargamer, which is a Twitch channel run by our dear friend Rob Symes of The Honest Wargamer, and that's every Tuesday. I guess it's actually noon GMT is when that one streams live. You can come join us in the chat. It's 7 a.m. for me, 5 a.m. for Pete. So it is a passion project. Definitely something we do for the love of the game and hearing each other talk. So check us out there.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that made Stat Center sort of what it was you and Pete. This is totally a passion project, right? It's definitely not I'm going to get rich off podcasting, which, by the way, folks, in case you're wondering, is not a thing.
But if someone's going to figure it out, John, I got my money on you, pal.
You think so? Yeah. Okay. I will retire on Podcast Millions. Maybe not.
Hey, Joe Rogan just signed a crazy deal. So, I think he got bought by Spotify today, I think.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, Joe Rogan he's an animal, right? The guy is just, he's a well-known comedian, championship kickboxer, announcer for the UFC.
Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan, John Damaris. Sounds about the same. You got something going on here.
Yeah. Okay. But so let's talk a little bit about, maybe people haven't heard the story. What got you and Pete together to do Stat Center? Like, what was the impetus behind that?
Mostly it was at the time an idea for a show that I had rattling around in my brain for a while, which was just there was enough actually happening every week that there's enough content being generated by tournaments to just talk about actual news from tournaments. And because I don't if I was starting out of war, I would definitely be playing your role, not Nick Nobody's role. I don't actually really know what's happening at a high level, at a technical level. So for me, so when I was on podcasts all the time, I'd be asked my opinions on things and be like, this opinion is worthless. Like, yeah, maybe I'm a funny guy, but like, I don't actually know what's hot these days, what the kids are into. I could just report that instead. And that's kind of where it came from. And eventually Pete started doing his thing. And suddenly we had not only there was the news, but now we had all this quantitative data, and Pete's a funny guy and we got along well on chapter tactics. And eventually I sort of pitched it to him and the Frontline Gaming guys, and off we went.
And the rest, as they say, is history. And now there's a big hole in the Frontline Gaming network where you guys were, and everybody misses you. So, have you thought about maybe covering some of the TTS tournaments that are going on right now, or talking about, at least to give people a little taste of what's going on in the meta? Because there's some interesting lists that are coming out of some of those right now.
I guess, we started talking about it's a passion project, and is TTS something that I would admit is actually kind of cool. It's actually remarkable to me how many people are engaged, aka more than zero, because that is a hard way to play 40 Warhammer 40,000. You were making some serious compromises to do it that way. That all being said, maybe that's not where my heart lies. Like, I've been having fun doing other stuff, and I don't know if that's really what's going to make me hungry to do a show. Maybe finding some other fun stuff to talk about. We might see some irregular episodes out from Peter and I, but yeah, I don't know if necessarily covering the shadow meta is really what's going for us. Also, like, not to put a weird spin on things here, but it will be a challenge for us to determine when the right time to come back will be. Because that's a hard question for just regular society.
Right.
We don't necessarily want to encourage irresponsible choices, but there are lots of people who will be able to responsibly get back to playing Warhammer in an organized, competitive way, and we'll have to decide when we start covering things.
Yeah, because you don't want to accidentally incentivize people to do the wrong thing, which would be to gather in large groups when maybe they shouldn't. But at the same time, like you said,
it's a big world. There's a lot of places where it's probably okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very interesting. All right. Well, thanks, Val. I'm sure people will enjoy getting to catch up with you a little bit, and everybody should go check out 40K Chat Center on the Frontline Gaming Network.
Thanks, John, and congrats on this show. I love it. I don't quite get it every day, but I listen to it all the time, and it's as I would say. I need to tell your audience, I doubted this concept. I said, "You're crazy. That's a dumb idea," and boy, was I wrong. The show is awesome. It's one of my favorites.
Thanks, dude.
That's Val Heffelfinger speaking with John Damaris. Keep an eye out for the new episodes of 40K Stats Center, man. We can't wait, Val. It's going to be so good to have you and the Falcon back again. All right, are we ready to sing along?
It's the model of the day, the model of the day, the model of the day.
So yeah, it's that time to highlight a model of the day. Today we're showing off the beautiful Vulcan model from the Horus Heresy character series. This thing is amazing. So the model itself, you might have already seen it, standing atop this massive base, wielding the mighty hammer Dawnbringer. And in this case, it's been painted perfectly by Dark Bunny Studios. They're a commissioned studio. The flames are amazing. You can almost feel the heat coming off them. And the OSL is superb. Great highlights on the green armor and that big bald head. Great job, Dark Bunny. You can check it out on our Facebook and on our Instagram. And if you have a model that should feature on the show, or if you've seen a model that should feature on the show, let us know. We want to hear from you. Hey, that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us on 40K Today. A big thank you to our content producer, Alex Painter, our social media superstar, Tanya Gates, and our technical producer, Seamus Ronan, for all of their hard work once again in putting the program together. And make sure you join us tomorrow on the show when we meet a Warhammer hero who's turned his 3D printing expertise to making PPE gear for frontline medical staff. Another awesome member of our community. So we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, for the whole 40K Today team, I'm Steve Joel, and that's what's happening in 40K Today.